Welcome to Plausible Foolishness. We are the two kings of the Rube Empire, right wing extremists extraordinaire, enemies of the state, the deep state, the deep underground military complex, the NWO, and the satanic cabal. I am the philosopher king. I'm the ivory tower, and I've got a perspective on things.
Ladies and gentlemen, like Edgar Allan Poe, quote the Raven, nevermore. Just call me the sting in the rafters that's dropping in the middle of the ring to destroy the NWO. I am the Iron King, the people's champ, the people's choice, the legend, the icon, the franchise, the strong one, the CEO of. And ladies and gentlemen, I have a perspective on things. And before I continue, I would like to send out a strong and firm message. Dusty. And I'd like him to just simply calm his memory glands and chill out. The show has begun. You ready to go, big boy? You ready to go today, man?
Yeah, I'm ready to
go. Here's what I want to talk about. It's really simple. Since we are the harbingers of death when it comes to the NWO, me being the Stinger, you being the Ric Flair,
what?
co-joining.
I don't think there's any way that I'm the Ric Flair.
Well, I got to think of the pieces that.
Not that I don't love Ric Flair, by the way.
Huh?
Not that I don't love Ric Flair, but I'm gonna be. Let's be real.
Okay. Let's walk this back. If we were in the Four Horsemen,
if we were in the Four Horsemen,
Arn, Ole, and Ric Flair, who would you be, bro? Who would you be? It just right off that sample. Don't think about it. Don't overanalyze it. What's your blank?
Arn.
Who are you?
I think I'm Arn.
I can see you doing the Arn. I can hit you with the Arn. I can see it.
I think you're the Ric Flair, if anything.
I am. Here's the thing. I'm the Ric Flair wishing I was the Arn, but it is what it is, just being fair. But for the analogy, I'm trying to destroy the greatest wrestling faction of all time, a.k.a. Hall, Nash, and Hogan. So you gotta have to be.
You know what we are? Yeah, true. But we're the dream team up that nobody ever thought could happen and never did, actually.
Who?
Sting and The Undertaker.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Do you pay attention to the UFC at all?
UFC? Yeah, I saw that guy.
Oh, my gosh, man. The Undertaker walk-in was gold.
Oh, yeah.
If he would have lost, how embarrassing would it? Go ahead.
I got a friend down in Miami. He's a good friend.
Yeah.
And he is, his nickname in high school was the Dead Man.
Nice. Okay? Nice.
And he's the guy who we would go over to his house every pay-per-view, and every time that The Undertaker was about to come out, it was, shut up, don't talk. And he would kneel in front of the TV, and he would pay homage to his Dark Lord, right? So I sent him that video of the guy paying homage to The Undertaker, and his response was heresy. That's it. There is no pretending to be The Undertaker. There's just The Undertaker, and anybody who claims to be him or pay homage or any of that is heresy. It's idolatry, and he won't stand for it. So I love his enthusiasm and his loyalty.
Listen. I used to be that way with The Rock. I used to be like, he would come on screen, and I would tell everybody, my brother, my sister, and my dad, I'd be like, shut your mouth. I would try to do The Rock, you know what I mean? I'd be like, hey, what do you think? It doesn't matter what you think. Like, literally, I was about it. But you and I, we've been fighting this war for many years now.
Mm-hmm.
We've been fighting the battle of ideas. We have been fighting it verbally on the show, in our families, in the number one government institution, or not government, or number one institution, which is family. We've been putting our money where our mouth is to destroy the globalists one family at a time. And this is what I do want to say to this. I think the episode is labeled "The NWO is Terminal." And though you hear those words NWO, I'm not talking about the greatest wrestling faction of all time. Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Steve Nash, and Scott Hall. I am talking about the globalist cabal of the ruling elites that sworn purpose is to kill you and take everything from you because they are ancestrally demonic psychopaths that view you as cattle, literal cattle. And they want to reduce your population, your world population that's going on right now, by 94% and enslave you. And they've done it numerous ways over and over and over again. Now, I could sit here and explain that for days, but we only have an hour show. I would recommend you go to InfoWars, go to Rumble, look for InfoWars, and look for the show Endgame to get the full explanation of what the heck that is. Your mind will be blown. Or you will be like the rest of the cattle that will say, but why would they lie? Idiots. I literally had I won't out him on this show, but he's a sucker. And then 2020 happened. You know when people are really wrong about everything?
Mm-hmm.
Like zero discernment, and they're wrong, and they called you a conspiracy theorist forever and ever and ever, and said stupid things like, but why would they lie? Like, that's why I'm so adamantly against it. I'm going to leave this person's name out of my mouth, but he'll never listen to this. It doesn't matter. They never apologize. Have you noticed that? They never come to you and say, you know what, you were right. You know what, those FaceTimers didn't work. You know what, you're right. Like, the jab was poisonous
I mean,
more
that's
than it was
human
helpful.
nature. That's human
You're
nature.
right. Yeah, you're right. George Floyd was a fentanyl dealer. Yeah, you're right. George Bush was basically a Democrat diet, right? Okay, like you're right. All the wars in the Middle East were a waste of time. Like you're like, there's so many things that we've said. We talked about COVID early. We were the first ones out that said, "Listen, this is the flu. It's literally the flu," and we were right. Man, let's see. What else did we get right? I mean, the only thing I've gotten wrong on the show is I thought California was going to flip red in protest to, or in enjoying the freedoms that they had, but unfortunately they went back to Gavin Newsom, who posted a video about the state of Florida and how unfree we are. But it looks like in a couple weeks
That,
they will be
oh my
reinstating
god.
masks. You hear about
That,
that?
yes. Did you see the did you see the
Well,
mock commercial?
no.
Gosh, man, I wish I had the time. I would have had it ready for this thing, and I apologize. I haven't been trying
It's
to
all
sell
good.
my house, so. But
And now keep in mind, but listen, keep in mind, when I say NWO, I'm not talking about just Democrats. See,
no,
the problem is you guys have been sucked into the duality of Democrat and Republican. It's not. It's the
it's
ruling elite and everyone else.
exactly.
And you can know people by their fruit.
Yeah, you can,
There are
and
Republicans.
hear
Go ahead.
this. You can be on their side. You can be for everything that they're for, but you're not one of them, and so
Yep.
you will be discarded at their earliest convenience. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner we hope that you'll come to our side and fight the actual fight, the good fight.
100%. Now, with that being said, God is in control. See, I started to get really pessimistic. I used to get Steve Dace level and Totters and level of just like depression, and I could have easily fallen into that. But that's not my attitude. That's not what the Holy Spirit has called me to be. I am an ardent optimist, but I will tell you the truth into your face. I will tell you the truth that there are things in this world that are made up. Let's just say that. You know what I mean? And I'll be the first one to tell you what's true, not because I'm the arbiter of truth, but I hold on to the thing that is truth, which is Jesus Christ, who said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And when you cling to Christ, does that mean that you're never going to be deceived? Absolutely not. I've been deceived numerous times. But what's funny is the more you cling to Christ, the more the bull crap is easier to detect. For example, if I was a truck driver for a garbage disposal unit, okay, I would smell like crap all the time. I wouldn't even know what good smells like. But if I, took a shower for a long time and was out of that environment, magically I could detect stench relatively quickly. Okay, and that's what Jesus does. He not only saves your souls, but comes to give you life and life more abundantly. And when he does that, he gives you this thing called discernment that comes directly from the Holy Spirit. Now, am I the arbiter of discernment? No. But gosh darn it, I'm tired of being right all the time. I don't know about you, Matty Matt, but I'm just tired of being right. And here's the thing. Just straight up. I might say things to you that sound to you incredibly conspiratorial. And just wait 6 months. I'm usually right again. And it's not because we're amazing. It's not because Matty Matt's the smartest guy on the planet, even though he is. He's the mad scientist. It's not like I'm the ebony rampart, the one that breaks the hearts and just it embodies this spirit of truth all the time. No. It's just that we cling to Jesus. And the longer you cling to Jesus, it's a lot easier to see what Satan does. And I use that word absolutely, literally, not figuratively. Satan himself, who's deceived a lot of you and is deceiving even the elect. The Bible talks about even the elect themselves will be deceived. We could go through the litany of how many times we've been right, but guess what? I don't have time for that show. It would take us 10 hours to go over the, hey, we were right again. Okay. And I'll drop one of mine in the final thoughts to get tonight. But here's the reality. God is in control. The NWO is terminal. And I use that word very specifically because there is a phenomenal, Matty Matt, phenomenal show on Amazon Prime right now. And it's got the Libby's panties all twisted up real tight right now. They do not like it.
No.
And Matty Matt, you know why they don't like it?
They already don't like the star. Because he's a Christian.
Did you see that meme I posted where it's like the guy, he's like, a woman, yeah, that's so brave and bold. I killed my baby, yeah, that's so brave and bold. White person, I identify as black, oh, that's so brave and bold. Just random guy, I'm a Christian, oh, boo, I hate you, blah, blah, blah. Now, we laugh about that, but the Bible tells us that we're going to be hated for following Jesus Christ. Our boy Chris Pratt, who, I don't know his soul, but from what it looks like is he loves Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
The hyper fundamental crazy KJV only YouTubers would say that he's somewhat of Satan himself, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Okay?
Yeah.
I ain't that cray-cray. You know what I mean?
I think that's what you're talking about is what the Bible is talking about when it says, judge not lest ye be judged.
But the Bible does say, judge a person by his fruit, which is literal judgment. But yeah. I know I'm getting.
Yeah, what I'm saying is like, judge not lest ye be judged is. It's not for us to determine the another person's salvation status, right? That's between them and God. That's God's arena.
We are to judge their fruit, though, right?
Of course.
If you,
we're to discern. We're to discern what is right and what is wrong.
Yep.
So when a person does something, we can look at that and say, no, that's wrong. Or, yes, that's right. What he's saying is right, But not then go necessarily. I mean, there's some people that you're just, it's just, there is no fruit. There's nothing, And that's you just know there's no fruit, so stay away from that person. 100%. But the salvation that's not our arena.
No,
we don't grant salvation, so how do we freaking even know?
We don't.
Exactly.
All we can do is fruit inspect. But they hate Chris Pratt, even though he had 2 awesome weeks with Jurassic Park. Last year, he killed it on Amazon Prime, and now he has the most viewed show on Amazon Prime, which is one of the biggest platforms that's being used right now. And there's a show called Terminal List. I am not going to spoil this show for you, but I'll keep it really simple. There's a list of people that he needs to take out. And by golly, brother, this brother starts taking him out. And we're not talking about in a nice, happy way. Let's just say very justified in what he does. Because I'll be honest with you, I struggled with the show in one aspect. There's a verse that's incredibly clear: vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you know, it's hard to fight the urge to say, hey, I forgive all people, but I'm gonna, you know, forgiveness is up to God, and I'm just here to arrange a meeting. I think Denzel Washington said that. You know what I mean? So it is hard to not. It's really hard to not have that feeling. Does that make sense? Now, side note for Hoser there, NWO back in the day was phenomenal. It was the best. It's the best race. It's the best wrestling faction of all time. Okay, maybe tied would be the Four Horsemen, and DX and all that stuff is a really, 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 really far third. Now, here's the deal. Straight up, Terminal. You absolutely need to see it if you have not seen it. You must see the show. It is a phenomenal show. Prep turns in an unbelievable performance. Very, very cool. Now, the reason why the libs hate this show so much is, well, a lot of their idols are getting smashed in this show. Well, let's start with a few of the idols. The government is not painted in a good light at all. And it's, you know, and we know this. We know. I mean, you've been on Plausible Foolishness. You've been watching the show for 3 seconds.
No. The government just has our best interests at heart.
But why would they lie? You're an idiot. You're an idiot if you think the government is here to help. What did Ronald Reagan say? The worst thing you could ever hear is, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Yeah,
you
the
know,
worst
like,
nine words in the English language or something like that.
I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Like, it rips the government. Now, if this show would have came out during the Bush years, even though he was an NWOer himself, Skull and Bones, the libs would cheer this on, right? They'd cheer for this. Because, yeah, Rage Against the Machine, unless we're in control.
Yeah.
And it makes abundantly clear in this show, they're not a fan of the government. The second thing, the other idol goes down, is the military-industrial complex. Who funds all these media outlets? The military-industrial complex. So it goes after those guys hard. Let's see, what other idols does it smash? Quote unquote science. Because we know that science never get manipulated unless there's lots of money behind it. Yeah. It goes after that too.
Which is basically what all science is nowadays.
Yep.
Where's the Edison in his garage, you know? in his laboratory, you know, he's getting bought out and memory holed by giant corporations and the austere scholars in the university who are just clearly searching after truth are all getting government grants, so they're only doing the experiments that get you money from the government.
Yes, that's
true. It's all messed up. It
goes after that too.
Yeah, and there's no real science.
You brought up the next point. It goes after big corporations. Specifically in San Francisco. No way. No wonder the libs are pissed. They don't like that either. And you know what else they go after? Corruption in the government, in the police force, and in the military. It goes after all the sacred cows. Now, the libs could get behind, you know, how the cops were. They can get behind that. But don't you dare touch their big corporations in San Francisco. Don't you dare touch their government that they love so much. Don't you dare talk about the state like that. Don't you dare talk about our science idol. Don't you dare come after all those things. And what's funny is they're getting foiled by an Alabama fan. They're getting foiled left and right by a hillbilly from Alabama. And that drives them libs nuts because we all know if a civil war goes down, the coast would dominate the South, right? Even though we got all the guns and we got all the pissed off and we got all the motivation because we actually have families to protect. Like, oh my goodness, our antagonist is doing the entire time. Because, gosh forbid, we show a heteronormative relationship, marriage, that's actually really good.
Mm.
And having children and raising those children right, and brotherhood, and protecting your friends and family, and having your friends come to your aid to, dare I say, go against the corporate scientism government narrative. Well, no wonder they don't like this movie.
Yeah, you
And
can't
you know
have
how
a
much
masculine man being
you
masculine.
I mean, here's the problem. First of all, the antagonist is a straight white Christian male. And the very first words of the show come out of the book of Judges. And it talks about the story of Gideon. Are you kidding me? Straight white Christian male with a normal
That's everything that's
situation
wrong with the world.
with children? Are you kidding me? And you know what's crazier? There's no trans people in this. Not a single.
Don't they know that
LGBT
representation matters?
Not a single LGBTQ245 FU person in the show. Not one. Can you believe that? I'll tell you what, man. I tell you what. And not only that, there's justice that gets dealt out. And not in a court system, but actual old school justice.
Oh, social
eye for an eye
justice?
stuff.
Social justice?
No,
So
no, no, no.
the white guy gets his comeuppance as a oppressor and a promoter of white supremacy?
No, no, no. It's more in the vein of Stone Cold Steve Austin when he says, I'm about to open a can of whoop ass all over. That's what it was. Over really bad dudes and really bad people. Wow. I mean, because listen.
Then where's the justice? I don't understand the justice.
Yeah, so like it's kind of eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth stuff. You know what I mean? And we're not talking about slapping cheeks. We're talking about you're getting your comeuppance.
But where's the minority involvement in that?
There's a few, but they're not the main story, unfortunately. Well,
again, I'm missing that how that's justice.
But here's the thing: the only prominent minority in the show is an Asian woman. We know that Asians don't count for minorities, so
that's true. They're white adjacent.
And here's the other thing: she was talking trash about the CCP and the Chinese government.
What?
We can't have that in the show.
What will our Chinese overlords do?
I don't think the Chinese are going to like Terminalist. I don't think they're going to like this one very much, man.
Gosh.
But anyways.
I'm afraid they might start to not like America.
Wow, yeah. And you know what's funny?
Thank God they still love our money.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is this show didn't overly love America. You know what it overly loved?
It wasn't Rock, Flag, and Eagle from
no.
It's Always Sunny?
No, it was family and friends and duty. That's what this was. It wasn't about the red, white, and blue. It was about family, duty, and friends. No wonder the left hates this so much. They what do they call it? It was a right wing kill fest or I don't even know what they called it. But
like revenge.
Here's
porn.
the thing: revenge porn.
Yeah.
What's crazy?
It is still. It's not crazy America, but it is still ultra nationalist, right?
It's not necessarily.
Well,
It's
no, it's
not.
not in real life, but they call it. They'll
No,
call it that, no matter what.
they'll call it that, but
It's.
it's
I mean,
very hyper focused on his family. Because here's the problem. Let's get real. They hate the family because they hate God. That's what God instituted
mhm.
as the number one institution,
Oh, I
other than
mean,
loving Him and family. Go ahead.
okay. So the honest LGBT activists
Yep.
will tell you it was never about actually getting the right to marriage, right? The right. Um, it was never about that.
Nope.
It was it was about the destruction of the whole concept of marriage and destruction of the nuclear family. It's in the charter of BLM.
It was run
Destruction of the
by
nuclear family.
lesbians.
How does that
Run
help
by
black
lesbians.
people? How does that help the black community?
I don't know. I just heard. I heard. In a national. What was that thing called? A congressional hearing that the best decision a woman ever made was killing her baby, and that tons of minorities will die if they don't have the quote unquote right to slay babies, even though 51% of African Americans have been killed in abortions, but that's another story for another time. Sorry about that. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
How does okay? How
Sorry.
do minorities die from not killing minority babies in the womb?
Listen, that is some 40 chess that the left is just they've got a different level of
Is it
logic.
40 chess
And
or
if
is it
you
Common Core math?
something like that, it's similar to how inflation works right now, even though all the CPI numbers are higher than 9.1, but somehow we only are at 9.1 inflation, or the inflation's at 9.1 right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Common core math. It's just listen. I can't
yeah, yeah.
tell.
We're
You know,
we're good at the maths.
well, it's like Joe Biden taking a recent poll that 94% of Democrats don't want him to run, and turning that into, well, read the polls, like 92% of them want me to run again, which is not true, Uncle Jojo.
I
Yeah.
thought it was 64% don't want him to run in
Listen, the left
Democrats.
doesn't know.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Who
left doesn't
knows?
know.
Who knows?
It is what it is.
No, but back to the
But yeah,
family. The family is essential to a stable society, right? It gives men a purpose, you
yep,
know, a reason to work and work hard and um to a reason to fight, right?
yep.
Um,
What?
and
Fight?
those are all enemies to a global, uh, a global
Evolve.
organization of elites
Yep.
who want to rule everything and want to diminish the roles of, I mean, of in sovereign states,
Yep.
basically,
Some might
because
say
the
the family's
sovereign
the
state is going to rely on those men.
yeah, yeah. Some might say that the family itself, the nuclear biblical family, is the antithesis of the New World Order. And ladies and gentlemen, go watch Terminal List. And why
Definitely.
we named this the NWO's Terminal is I just keep watching the idols that got smashed in that show getting smashed before my very eyes. And keep in mind, there is no Republican control anywhere right now other than red states. And what's funny is we're slowly getting rid of Moloch worshiping by slaughtering our babies at the altar of Planned Parenthood. And there's no uprising still, Matt. I'm still waiting for the uprising, Jane's Revenge, and the
Yeah.
uprising. It just doesn't seem to make a difference. But anyways, here's the thing.
Well, they
It's
don't have
interesting.
anybody to like. They don't have anybody to blow up. They have nothing to burn. And here's
Oh,
what I mean by that. There's no arson power where
power.
they
Nope.
exist.
Yep.
Like the overturn of Roe v. Wade just put the power back in the states, and the states that they exist in are still
Love killing
killing
babies.
babies.
Yep.
That's not changing.
Yep.
You know, there was that one Ohio 10-year-old who was raped and then had to go to Indiana to get an abortion because she was a week past the cutoff date in Ohio. That went into effect as soon as RVW was put back into the state's control where it belonged all along, per the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. And supposedly, they've arrested a man under suspicion of being the man who perpetrated the rape crime.
Very convenient, by the way.
Yeah,
Very.
it's extremely convenient. And in fact, like there was the law enforcement officers in Ohio who were looking at, the reports and seeing there's nothing that fits this description whatsoever. And then as soon as they put that out, then suddenly there's this guy. Nobody knows who. There's nothing except the tweet that says that it happened, and then a guy who's arrested. And
he can.
What? He confessed.
He confessed. That's the story. So a guy. No, but here's where this story doesn't make any sense. Okay, clearly they're trying to capitalize on Roe, right?
Yeah.
Horrible situation. If anyone's 10-year-old is raped, right? That guy deserves to die. I think chemical castration and a bullet in the head are an adequate way to handle that situation. Okay? Does the baby need to die? I don't think so. Not at all.
No.
Now,
two wrongs do not make a right. Haven't we heard that our whole lives?
They tried to use that story to gin up sympathy for killing babies with a 10-year-old girl. When people started calling bullcrap, because I don't know, let's see, Amber Heard, the Kavanaugh case, the rope in the noose in the NASCAR garage, Russian collusion, the Russian
Mattress Girl.
What else?
Mattress Girl. Remember her?
Mattress Girl. What's it? Juicy Smollier. After all of that stupidity, people are calling bullcrap now, which is good. I appreciate that. Now, when people started pushing back on this story, and it started to look like a lie because you've got the Ohio DA saying, yo, we haven't seen anything like this anywhere. He's like, I've called around. I can't find anybody. After that's literally said, the next day, a man confesses to raping a 10-year-old girl. Now, here's the kicker. The way that they can keep this hidden is the guy's an illegal immigrant. So they don't want to admit that because it makes it look bad that they let that guy in, right?
Bye-bye.
Right? But it's interesting that an illegal immigrant confesses to raping a 10-year-old. What illegal immigrant is going to say, hey, ¿qué pasa, policía? I did it. Who's doing that? If you believe that story.
Well, I'll tell you who's doing that. I'll tell you who's doing that.
Who's
an
that?
Illegal immigrant who's been promised a large sum of money for his family back in Mexico, which is the whole reason he probably came here. And all he has to do is say that he did that, and then he goes back home with everything that money. He came to America for.
Because they couldn't have another Jesse Smollett. Couldn't have another one. And you can't deep dive the 10-year-old because that violates privacy of a minor. So it is interesting that the Ohio DA says, hey, these cases would be flagged immediately because it's a big deal in Ohio. It doesn't exist. Magically the next day, an illegal immigrant magically confesses. What man?
And that's the day after the Washington Post does a fact check of the story. Did you see the fact check? where it says this
Yep.
isn't incredibly hard to research this fact check, but the story has become so pervasive that it's basically a fact now anyway. What? I don't. You're a fact checked organization. You should understand what the definition of fact is.
You
But
don't.
but are we
It's-
surprised by that? No, because it's just the same hypocrisy. It doesn't
Here's the deal.
matter if it's true to them. Truth does not matter. They hate the truth because the truth exposes what they really are, and they hate what they really are.
Listen,
But they-
it's a death cult.
Yeah, it is.
It's a death cult, and they will do anything to save Moloch. But Moloch got smashed by Rome.
Yeah.
It got
Think
criminal.
about what they did. They to preserve the the wanton murder of innocent infants in the womb so that they could live a consequence-free life of debauchery. They made up the most horrible situation that you could imagine surrounding the topic of abortion.
Yep.
And presented it as a true story to the entire world, and most likely paid off an illegal immigrant, in my mind, to quote unquote verify this
story,
so that they could continue to have consequence-free sex with whoever they wanted, whenever they wanted, however they wanted. And by consequence-free, I mean sex that doesn't end up with them being responsible for their own child.
Yep.
And it's not because, like, I say their own because I stress that because we say a child, and that like dissociates them from the child. It's like, here's a random child and random person who just wants to have consequence-free sex. No. It's their child that they're murdering.
Yep.
Their child. They did all the steps it takes to create it, and they love themselves, but ultimately they love Moloch so much. But
no.
And then even then, that's a cycle. It's like they love themselves, so they worship Moloch, and they love Moloch because Moloch enables them to love themselves. You know.
Yeah.
But and they love that so much that they have no problem. Well, some of them have no problem killing their own child. It's their child.
But think about this. The narrative's getting terminal. Give you an example.
It holds no water. Nobody buys it. On top of that, what we've said before, Roe v. Wade got toppled during a Democrat presidency and a Democrat-run Congress. In the middle of, as the dollar is inflating, and it seems like, as World Economic Forum is meeting in Davos and laying out the future of the world, as we're fighting this weird war in Ukraine that doesn't make any sense, and we're supposedly beating back the Russians. I heard a stat today. In less than a year, we've spent more than the first 5 years of Afghanistan in Ukraine, and we're not even fighting it there.
Nope.
Yet the ruble is up. The people of Russia seem to be doing just fine.
Yeah, and they're about to turn off all energy to Germany. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
They literally told them that we're turning off your energy. And Ukraine, on the other side, they had time to legalize gay marriage.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah, I did see that.
So in the middle of the bloodiest, worst war of all time that we've spent, what, 20 times more than we did in Afghanistan or something like that? It's
Well,
something
we've
absurd that we spent.
we spent
5 times.
more in less than 1 year than we spent in the first 5 years of Afghanistan.
Yeah. So, long story short, this is supposedly we're fighting back the Ruskies and they're bad and blah, 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 blah. But in the middle of that, Ukraine's not winning anything. Russia's ruble's out of control, kicking butt. And they had the Ukrainians, those pure, uncorrupted Ukrainians, had time to pass legislation to make gay marriage legal there. Or gay mirage, sorry, I'm using the wrong wording, but gay mirage, they made it legal. Right?
Oh man, yeah,
So it's interesting to me, like everything's a lie. So what's terminal is the narrative. They have no lock on the truth anymore because they don't speak the truth and no one believes you. They don't
yes, that's
believe
the
that a
thing.
10-year-old actually got raped. They don't believe it. They don't believe it. They don't believe, like, we don't even believe the guy who confessed, the illegal immigrant. Oh, perfect. We can ice him and get him out of here before anybody can do research on it, whether it's true or not. We don't believe that. I don't believe the Indianapolis Star that released this story. I don't believe that Ukraine is this noble, perfect place. We said that from the beginning. We never got sucked into that bull. I
Yeah.
don't believe that Vladimir Putin's a good guy either. But guess
Yeah.
what? He didn't do anything to me. I don't believe in the Putin price hike because guess what? Inflation was already going through the roof. I don't believe any of this stupidity. I don't believe you. And guess what? That went terminal. The narrative has gone terminal, my friend. The economy of the wokety woke globalists has gone terminal inflation.
Yeah.
I love
All
watching
their
it.
and and
Go ahead.
and so we're doing poorly, obviously, economy wise,
Sure.
and so that definitely feels like by design. It is by design,
It's fun. Yep.
and that's to bring down actual well, the last remnants of actual capitalism in this country, right?
Yep.
But all it takes is a look outside of America to see that what they got going, what the NWO elites got going, isn't actually working there either. You know, where
Oh,
the countries that are far ahead of us on this NWO path, it's not working there either. The case. Yes, go ahead.
what's that little island just south of India? It's like a
Yeah,
country.
it's a yes, it's a two word country. It's called Sri Lanka.
Oh, Sri Lanka. Gotcha.
Yeah, Sri Lanka.
I heard they had a party at their capital the other day.
Well, okay, so here's what happened. Here's what happened. Um,
Good.
uh, some I'm not gonna play the funny guy. I'm just gonna tell you straight up what happened.
Just give played straight. I'll fill in the funny.
Yeah. In 2015, I think the World Economic Forum wrote a lovely article talking about how um, Sri Lanka was like the next great success story that we were
Yep.
going to see in this world. Okay?
Yep.
Because they were going full green. All right? They were adopting
Yep.
full on stakeholder capitalism. And if you understand what stakeholder capitalism is, we talked about this before. Stakeholder
I'll show you.
capitalism is fascism. Actual
Yep.
fascism.
You will own nothing.
Public,
And can't
private.
whack it.
They call it the new idea of public private partnerships. That's fascism. All right? That's it. So they were adopting stakeholder capitalism. They were everything was going organic, green energy, all that stuff.
GMOs kicked out.
GMOs.
Yes, I don't know what
No
happened to my
GMOs.
lights.
You look more. NWO like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was
So,
weird. Here we go. um, so fast forward to today, and everything's failing. There's not enough food for the people because organic practices tend to lower crop yields.
yield
Yeah.
and
Um,
nutrition. Which don't tell the vegans that. Sorry, my bad.
the
My bad.
organic,
Sorry.
the organic messes with nutrition.
Well, here's the deal. It's like the Satan uses bulimia, or Satan uses anorexia and gluttony, right? There's always something in between. Like this idea that purely organic food is like, the only healthy thing, right? It's kind of a misnomer. You can use GMOs and still have a healthy yield on a vegetable. But there are, like, again, there's the gluttony side of GMOs, right? Where you literally grow out any nutritional content of anything, right? Like there's
Yeah.
tomatoes now that so you can do both, right? But what the argument is that the organic people don't understand is, okay, there's a lot of people in the world. God has given us a technology that allows us to produce more food to help those people out. But if you're a globalist or a New World Order person, your mandate is to get rid of people. And what better way to do that than rigging the the yield of food, crops, and so on to
Mm-hmm.
kill more people? But
Yeah.
yes, go ahead. Sorry,
Or at the very
I'm
least,
just
weaken them so that they can't fight you or won't
yes,
fight you. But
yes.
yeah. So basically, there's no food. Their money's worthless.
They have no
There's
gas.
not enough jobs. On every level that they changed their society following World Economic Forum guidelines, uh, with help from the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, not the Impossible Mission Force, but the International Monetary Fund. Um, they it's failed, and then they requested a bailout from the IMF and did everything that they needed to do per IMF requests and guidelines, and then suddenly the IMF just pulled out and said, "Nah, we're not doing that. You're a failure. You're a failed experiment, and we don't give a crap about you because you're lessers. We're gods."
And then Ethan Hunt. Just kidding. You
Yes.
said
Yeah.
IMF, so I had to do it.
Yeah. Exactly. So the Sri Lankan people are just left floating down the river without a paddle, and they got angry. And en
Yep.
masse, they stormed the capital and forced. And here's the actually great part. They didn't do what you would think they'd do and murder the president. A giant mob. They actually just forced him to resign,
Yeah.
which is pretty. I mean, that's pretty amazing. That's mob self-control, which you don't generally see, unless they were just held back to a certain point, and he was like, okay, before it gets to the point where you murder me, I'm gonna just resign. How does that sound? And they were like,
Yeah.
I really wanted to murder you, but yeah, I guess that works fine.
Well,
But
you got to
either
keep in mind
way,
Sri Lanka went through that civil war in the 80s. That's why we have such a big like Sri Lankan population in America.
mm,
That was a big deal. Like I don't think that they want to see more people die, but I think that they
mm,
want to get that bullcrap out of there. You know what I mean?
for sure, it doesn't
So
work.
yeah,
So boom, right there, what the WEF is trying to do to the world does not work. So boom, narrative, terminal. Part 2. What's happening in the
oh,
Netherlands?
I was going to ask, what's going on with those freaky deaky Dutch, man? What's going on with those guys?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. After I mentioned them,
Oh,
they
smoking
are
a pancake, bumming the
it.
blunts.
Well, it's Freedom. It's
Sorry.
Freedom Convoy Part 2,
Okay.
which is really cool to
Farmer
see.
edition.
Farmer edition. First it was truckers, and now it's the farmers.
Amen.
And I mean, that's the thing, is that God bless them. These people are the pillars of society.
Yep.
You know, the farmers make the food that you eat. New York City, do you not freaking get that? Davos, you a-holes. The
Yeah,
food that you get comes from these people. You know?
they know that they just don't care. They
I
want
know.
you to die.
I know.
The point
Ultimately,
for you.
yeah. I mean, when Stalinist Russia murdered all the farmers and then replaced them with people who had no idea how to farm, and the cities starved, the party elites still ate well, you know? Stalin still had a gut, you know?
Yep.
Millions of people died. And in fact, the people who didn't know anything about farming, they died too when they were murdered and then replaced with more people who didn't know how to farm. But that's another story, I guess. So yeah, the elites don't care. They'll still get what they want because they're mega rich. But will they stay mega rich? I don't know. That's for God to reveal. But the stories that they're telling are falling apart. So what's happening in the Netherlands is they have a new green policy. A new green policy that reduces the amount of nitrogen that a farm can produce. Now, if you know anything about plants, nitrogen is an essential nutrient for plants. So if you want to yield high volumes of crops, you need nitrogen. And it comes in the form of fertilizer. But I will yield to your question.
It is interesting that the enemy shifted from carbon to nitrogen.
Yeah, nitrogen's you've heard of carbon and methane. But there's a new, more dangerous, sexier greenhouse gas, and that's nitrogen. The problem with that, it's actually not a greenhouse gas.
No.
It lasts in the I don't know what you would call it, in the air. I mean, we have nitrogen in the air in large amounts. I think it's the number one gas that our atmosphere is made of. But I guess it's this form of nitrogen that's a problem. But it doesn't stay in that form for very long at all. The argument with carbon is that it'll stay in this form, in this dangerous form. It'll stay for decades upon decades. But that's not actually true either, because what it does is exactly what it does is it spawns more and more vegetation. Now, is there a point at which it could reach where that cycle will stop and it'll just become a detriment? Possibly.
Well, that's
theoretically,
but
theoretically. But plants turn carbon dioxide into oxygen. So, shut up. Either way, the nitrogen that they're talking about in the atmosphere, it's not a problem. It goes away almost instantly. And then there is some measure of fear of like poisoning ground tables with certain fertilizers and stuff like that. But the long and short of it is people need to eat. And farmers need to make a living to continue doing what they're doing. This is a pointed attack on farmers to make them lose business, right? To be unable to produce enough to maintain their business so that they lose their farms. And then these World Economic Forum elites like Bill Gates, the largest single person owning farmland in the world, to buy it up at 0% interest from all the loans that they got from their centralized bank buddies, and then control the world's food supply. And in the process, as as food shortages come, which they are coming, we're living off of last year's harvest. Next year, we'll be living off of this year's harvest, and this year's harvest has been significantly reduced. People will die, which achieves that goal as well. So it's just a net good for the World Economic Forum. But the problem is, and the reason why we're saying that they're terminal, is that the farmers are wise to it. And they're driving their tractors to the Capitol, and they're pouring manure all over the steps of the Capitol, and they're blocking the roadways, and they're protesting this crap. They're rising up. The people are hip to what's going on more and more and more and more, and they're not standing for it. And we can't let them do it. They're doing it here with ESG. And we can't let them do it. We can't let it happen. We have to fight this.
I think that here it goes to the original point of the show, right? God's in control.
Yes,
these things that seem insurmountable are being put at the feet of Christ as we speak, right? The fact that you could have got away with this.
How do we know?
Years ago. You can't know. Huh?
Like, why are these people awake? Why are they even awake?
I think that here's the deal. I think for such a time as this, God raises up people. And I think the other reason why is God is enlightening those who needs to be enlightened. He's giving discernment to those who are discerning, and he's giving courage to those who wake up and speak out, like, well, who was the one blood of Job? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, the Lord God raised up an unlikely man in the early 90s, a man named Al Gore, to invent the internet. And because of that internet, the free flow of information was achieved. And so now, even the lowly farmer, who is not lowly by our regards, the Rube Empire highly regards farmers. The World Economic Forum, the NWO, the banking families, and the central banks, and the elites in our governments around the world, they have no regard for farmers. They're dirty, filthy dirt mongers.
Yep.
We regard them, but they don't. And even the lowly farmer can get information about what these scumbags in power, in quote-unquote power, are doing. All because God inspired one man to create the internet. It's amazing.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think here's what I'm getting at, and I think
the whole point of the show is this, like,
I think I hate to diss on Steve Dace. I love Steve Dace. I mean, he's growing on me. He's like, he's growing on me like that. He's giving me the HIV. You know what I mean? So he's growing on me. It's really hard to get rid of him. But just kidding. That's a horrible analogy. More like monkeypox. But anyways, I think he talks about knowing what time it is, right? which makes sense. But here's the thing. God's in control. God is sovereign. And the question really is not about, do you know what time it is? The question is, do you want to be a part of it or not? Because God will raise up the generation that will take care of it. And that's my only pushback to the,
And so
you
we
know what
can,
time it is? I'm like,
that's a great
I
point.
mean,
Because
like,
it's one thing to know
Go
what
ahead.
time it is, you know, to be aware of what's going on. But the other thing is to actively choose what you're going to fight for, you know?
100%. 100%.
And so, like, we
here's the
could
thing.
let the next generation or the generation of that or the generation of after that be the generation that actually listens to God's call, or it can be this generation.
Yeah, I mean, listen, God can do one of two things. He can march us around the desert for 40 years until we're all dead, or we can Joshua that thing and go kill some Nephilim. I would like to go kill some Nephilim. I'd enjoy
Damn
that.
right.
That's why, I mean, wholeheartedly, we do this show. That's why we raise our families the way that we raise our families. It's why we make the decisions that we make, is because at the end of the day, you know, I think this war, you know, I disagree with Steve Dace. I don't think the war is won at your, you know, your school board. No offense. And again, I'm not taking shots at Dusty because he can't defend himself. Okay, he's not here. All right, and I would say this if Dusty was on the show. Okay, I don't think that's where the win is, because I think the public school's completely busted and broken. Okay, like I don't think, and he talked about it a little in his show today. We keep trying to go back to the good old days because we love nostalgia. The good old days are dead. They're gone. Okay, the good old days when your public school taught you reading, writing, arithmetic is dead. I don't want to be a part of an organization that's already dead. That's like, hey man, I got promoted to the first captain position on the Titanic. The Sunbeam's going down. Okay, it is what it is, dog. It's time to build new ships. It's time to go to new lands. And for me, you know, I'm not talking about like exploring wherever, but what I'm talking about is this: what's the rock bed of society? It's your family. It starts that. What's the next step? It ain't your school. It's your freaking church. Y'all are so obsessed with your school. Well, guess what? You should be in your church more. And again, I'm not dissing people, and I'm not trying to roast anybody, and so on and so forth. Trust me, that I can point the finger at myself on a lot of things that I screwed up with. But it's your church, man. Is your church doing Christ's will? And what I tend to notice is when churches are biblical, they make impact. It is what it is, and we may not see massive impact. We may not see, you know, a revival on the Benny Hinn level. But no offense, Benny Hinn was a fraud. It's those micro battles that we don't see over and over and over again. And I see those, especially in the church that you and I go to right now. I'm seeing those micro battles win over and over and over again. I see it in our kids getting saved, right? Seeing a child get saved is a micro battle. It's a micro battle it's viewed as a micro battle on an earthly stance, but heavenly, monster wins. And we might be the generation that gets the next generation rock and roll, because guess what? The good old days of Friday night, it's TGI Friday, and go over and play Sega Genesis with your friends, and there's no internet drama, and the president doesn't really want to send everybody out to die all the time, and you know those days are dead.
Yeah.
I love the 80s. I love listening to 80s music. I keep running up that hill, you know, from the Stranger Things show. I'm like, oh, Kate Bush, run it up there. I've listened to it a million times. I've been listening.
Good song.
I watched Top Gun finally. I finally saw Top Gun, which that's another phenomenal freaking movie. No wonder they got pissed off at that one too, because that wasn't woke at all. But I long for the days of the 80s, man, when there's no internet, and guess what? Like it seemed like every artist actually had talent. Everybody played an instrument. Like the sports heroes didn't care about politics. They just wanted to play sports. You know what I mean? Like our heroes seemed like heroes before Arnold went woke. Okay, like good times. But guess what? Those days are dead. They're gone. Okay. And what I need people to understand is this: the NWO is flailing because it is terminal. It is dying slowly because Christ is going to put every enemy at its feet. But guess what? Satan ain't done. Do you think Satan's going to be like, well, guess what? Socialism, communism, wokeism, globalism is failing. It's just going to go to something else. It's going to be another form of Babylon. And guess what? You have to prepare your family for
Well,
that. That
and when the
go ahead.
serpent's head gets cut off, the body still flails around and destroys everything around it. You know,
100%. That's a
when
perfect
when
analogy.
the world serpent, Jormungandr, gets killed, there's a lot of destruction in its wake. You know, they're not gonna go down. They're not gonna be like, oh well, I guess they're finding out. We're done. No, they're gonna go harder. I mean, that's
They're
what
going to
if
go
we
in a
haven't
different
learned that since Obama, the plan of action is when you fail, you go harder.
Yep. But guess what?
That's why every character is a non-binary homosexual trans person on TV, you know?
And
That's
they freak
why.
out when there's not on TV. Think
Yeah,
about that. They
i.e. the
flail, but guess
terminalist.
what? They're flailing because they lost control of the narrative. Thor: Love and Thunder didn't do as well as Top Gun, and that's the
No.
gayest thing that's out there right now. Freaking Doctor Strange didn't do as well as Top Gun. They're perplexed that to this day they don't control the narrative. Like they thought they could demonize Top Gun. The Chinese Republic of whatever didn't even show it because Tom Cruise dared to have a Taiwanese flag on his jacket or some crap like that. You know what I
Which
mean?
they
But
were
guess what?
contemplating taking out, but we made a stink. And we should
Yeah,
have.
and they didn't do it.
Because
Yep.
Taiwan is not Chinese Taipei. It's
Nope. It's
Taiwan.
not.
And they deserve to be their own freaking country. And we need
100%.
them to be their own freaking country so we can actually get non CCCP microchips in our freaking computers over here, you know?
Guess what?
Anyway,
Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise has generated $1 billion off of testosterone and kicking ass. Terminal List is probably going to get 7 trillion seasons, which is sad. It shouldn't get that many because, gosh forbid, we just do it like the anime does and have one season, one really good season, and end it. So we all end on a high note before they screw it up and woke it up. But it should because we finally got good entertainment that way. Listen, your school boards are freaking out because we're pulling our kids from your stupidity. Me and Charity joke every time Orange County calls us. We're like, we don't have kids in that. It never will. Not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, we're taking the power back because God has woken us up to this reality. And people are waking up to the NWO. They're waking up to the story. They're waking up to the narrative. And all of these strongholds are going terminal. And I love watching it happen. And you need to watch Terminal List. But I've got some final thoughts, Big Matty Matt. You ready for it?
yeah, I'm ready.
I'm stealing this from Steve Days. I think that I do agree with him because this is very important. They're going to run Kamala for VP. There's no doubt about it.
For president. So they're already
Really?
starting the and I'm going to explain why. It's so bad you can't defend it, right? When it gets so bad you can't defend it. It's like
Oh, sure. I mean,
it's
what's
like with
going on with Biden is bad.
yeah,
But
100%.
I don't feel like
Like-
Kamala is the automatic go-to. But I'll let you finish.
I'm going to explain to you why she's the automatic go-to. Now, here's the deal. Biden clearly is cognitively completely collapsed. Even his nursing aide, his wife, called Latin people Latinx and tacos the other day. It was incredibly embarrassing.
Latinx people are as diverse as the breakfast tacos that are famous in the city she's in.
And she
The best
She was
meme that I've
literally-
seen from that was when you're on the internet and it's asking you to verify that you're not a bot. It tells you to pick
Yeah.
all the pictures with street signs in it, right? And so it was
Uh-huh.
select all the pictures with breakfast tacos, and all the pictures are Latino people, and she's just checking them all.
oh my gosh, that's so but there's nothing good about Biden right now.
Not one
No.
accomplishment you can list. Afghanistan was a debacle. Inflation is out of control. Gas prices are insane. We can't get anything anywhere. Can't do it. And there's no way of reconciling this. The world thinks we're a laughing stock. They're literally laundering money in front of our eyes. They won't fix our border. The border crossings are insane. Crime is out of control to the point where they have to fake a 27-year-old illegal immigrant raping a 10-year-old. Roe versus Wade gets struck down. Gun laws get protected. Prayer gets protected. Literally, Dagon is falling real fast, faster than the Georgia Guidestones. So they have to get off this somehow. So they finally leak what's in Hunter Biden's laptop to show that he's compromised, so that gives them an out to get rid of him. They're showing his cognitive decline and putting it on full display with all the polls. And they're going to put Kamala in power because that's who's next in line. And then they're going to run Kamala because they know there is no statistical way that they can cheat their way into a win. There's no logical way they can hold any power in 2022 and 2024. So if you can't get that win, you got to get the narrative win. And the narrative win is this. I'm going to run Kamala Harris, and I'm going to put the gay guy with her so that when either Ron DeSantis comes steamrolling in to destroy you or Donald Trump comes in to destroy you, what they're going to say is the binary pick is between this minority who we should be shattering the glass window or the glass ceiling with, or another white guy. And you dumb, woke white women will fall for this. And I'm talking to you specifically, you dumb, woke white women, because that is all the Democratic Party is anymore. Biden has literally scared away the blacks. Biden has literally breakfast tacoed away the Hispanics. You don't have men anymore because men are over this crap too. Okay? The only part of your party is woke white women. And you know what woke white women love more than no crime, no wars, a secure border, low inflation, great jobs reports, peace and prosperity. They love to feel really good about helping out a black lady. They love that more than they love your country.
I thought you were gonna say hating daddy.
Oh, true. Yeah. Besides hating daddy issues, that's true.
But
Yeah,
let's
well, I
get
mean,
real.
which is why they hate Trump.
Listen, they just don't. The woke white women really, really, really don't want to be called racist, and they want to be part of the revolution.
Well, they're the savior of the poor minority.
Those poor black people need those woke white women, or they'll never make it. But here's the deal: they love that more than reason, logic, money, reality, safety. Because guess what? Woke white women hate God. Oops, I said it. And here's the deal. Even if you objectively look at how much of a moron Camel Toe Harris is, and she's a moron, objectively, she can't read a
Without a doubt.
teleprompter, she can't deal a speech, she's the czar of the border that keeps coming across, and you're still going to vote for her because you're a dumb, woke white woman, and you just don't want to be called racist. Well, guess what? Men,
Well, I mean that, and
they're
you have no idea about anything that's going on in this country. Nothing.
100%. Listen, men are over it. Hispanics are over it. Blacks are over it. You have lost everyone.
Asians
All
are
that
over
you've
it.
got. Asians are over it. You have only thing you've got at this point is woke white women. And guess what? If Trump or DeSantis is your option, they're going to take that because this sucks. You can literally hide and listen, you can cuddle up to your cats tonight, okay, you 45-year-old over the hill woke white woman with your non-kids and get ready for your brunch that you got with the girls on Sunday. But guess what? The rest of the country that's actually producing mimosas. Listen, y'all can do that, but guess what? Us that live in real America that are actually producing children, growing families, caring about God and country, we're not about it. But you can keep getting duped and thinking you're smart when you're a complete effing moron, and you will vote for Camel Toe Harris because you don't want to be racist and Orange Man bad. You're a moron. But they have to run Kamala, and I'm gonna tell you why. Matt, I'm answering your question. Why do they have to run Kamala? Because even if they lose, and they know they're going to lose, they're going to try to cheat again. It's going to be a little bit harder. Now that Wisconsin got rid of mail-in ballot, did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
The drop box is gone, and it's going to be hard to rig it now. And you can't deny the sentiment. People are over it. Even if they lose, they win. Because guess what? When Kamala and Pete Buttplug don't win, they can still cry America's racist and homophobic because they picked Donald Trump over these people. The narrative survives. The narrative wins. I'm still in Handmaid's Tale, and there's still those evil white men running the country. That's the whole reason they're going to run Kamala, whatever her freaking name is, because they know they're going to lose. And they know there's enough woke white women that will believe this stupidity.
True.
But that's my final.
Okay, true. Well, my final thought will come alongside then.
Okay.
What looks, and so that might depress you. You might look at that and go, "Damn, he's right. The narrative will win." But ultimately, what looks like a win is not a win at all. Because what will have, provided we don't have another selection, and Trump or DeSantis does win, the narrative had no effect. The narrative, all it does is survive in the hearts of the true believers that already are bought and sold into the lie.
Yeah.
So what? This is the villain hanging on to the edge of the cliff,
Yeah.
Not pulling victory from the jaws of defeat, It's
Now,
Go ahead.
to be fair, and I'm not stealing your final thought, but if they do rig it and Kamala wins,
you will see this country divide. And I'm not talking about a cold civil war that we're in. You will see this country literally divide. And they'll claim because it's racism, and we will have
and we'll go
the internet.
Whatever you said, whatever.
So
Go after yourself.
We're done.
Bye.
We're done. Because at the end of the day, you rigged one. Because here's the deal: fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on us. If you try to even get us to believe that 81 million people voted for that, you're out of your effing mind.
Yeah.
Now, they'll still try, and it will be the end of what they're trying to do, and it will not end well for them. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, go back to your point, bro. Sorry about that. Going alongside.
Well, I mean, let's go with that. Let's talk about that too. It might feel like, but a national divorce, the splitting up of America. Won't they have won? No, it's not.
I'm losing your audio, buddy.
An intact, complete takeover of America. And even further than that, the end of the American ideal, the American experiment, is the win for the elites.
Yep.
If we split up, we at least keep it going. We in Florida and Texas and Tennessee and places like that, we keep the experiment going. They've abandoned the experiment. California and Oregon and Washington and New York and all the other states like that, they've abandoned this experiment. We're the ones keeping it alive. And if it's still alive, there's still that shining city on the hill for the world to see that the ways of the New World Order, the ways of the serpent, are darkness. And there is light. And that's a loss for them. The fact that Florida is the way it is right now is a humongous blow to them.
There's a control.
Yeah, we should be purple or blue by now. And we're absolutely not. And we'll say we're red. And I don't want to fall into the trap of R's versus D's because it's not that anymore. It's not that. It's like we said at the beginning of the show. It's the elites versus us. And it's not. And that's like I saw somebody on Twitter today talking about the working class. It's a working class revolution, that we need.
No.
It's not a class thing either. I mean, sure, these elites are crazy wealthy, right?
Yes.
But it's not their wealth that's the problem. The wealth is just what buys them the power to live like they do and exercise the way that they exercise. But a person that is wealthy is not necessarily an evil. Yeah. So we need to lose the class struggle mindset, because that's just a mindset that's an NWO mindset. It's a communist, globalist mindset that that still plays into their narrative. It's just us, regular people, rich or poor, versus these people who think themselves gods.
They'll use any division possible to keep the distraction away from it's us versus them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that's to your point. Real quick, we're on twitch.tv/Plausible Foolishness. This podcast is Plausible Foolishness. If you're on Clapper, make sure you check us out, man. Give us a look. We are
anywhere you can get a podcast.
Anywhere. We're on Spotify. We're really blowing up on Spotify. Head over to Spotify. You want to get the full show after the show. But it's me and the Mad Scientist chopping it up like you're doing right now. A lot of you guys keep asking about it. So, hey, going to deliver it for you. But it's Plausible Foolishness on Spotify, twitch.tv/Plausible Foolishness, YouTube, and Facebook Live. But yeah, no, man, I'm with you, man. It's the beautiful thing, though, Matt, is people realize that it's not R&B, it's not black and white, it's not women versus men. It's us versus them. It really is. It is the elite versus everybody else. And I use elite, and that's why they hated Trump, because Trump made fun of them about it. Remember? They're like, the elite. Trump used to mock them to their face, like, "Oh, the elite." Okay.
And he's as rich as all get out.
He is.
But
he's not a part.
And again, deception is their game. So, there's always the fear that Trump's just a part of the plan.
No, it's interesting that they hate so much of the part of the plan, though. But yep.
Well, yeah, I mean,
foolishness. Sorry.
But I mean, his track record is such that he is one of us, from what I can tell. Is he a perfect? No, we're not looking for perfection. Perfection comes in Christ alone, and I don't look to humans for perfection. I don't look for humans to be my savior. I've got one already. He just so happens to be human, but he's also God.
Yep.
So.
Hey, listen, as far as politics, I'm not looking for perfect either. I'm looking for scalps. Again, I'm stealing that from Steve Davis, but I want scalps at this point. And I only see two guys that have actually really been going after scalps, and I just want some more. And I think more Trump are done. So just
I want these scumbag, corrupt a-holes taken down. I want them in jail. I want them gone. I want all the books to be thrown at them.
I know. Terminal List, must watch. Top Gun's a must watch. Another must watch, and I don't want to use too much time because we're about to close it down. Sea Beasts on Netflix.
I've heard
Please
good
watch
things.
Sea Beasts. Did you see that yet?
I haven't seen it, but I heard good things. Yeah, from a friend of mine.
You want to talk about kicking the globalists in the nutsack in a kids show? Gold. It is gold. The literal dude. All I gotta say, the final speech the little girl gives. Okay, and now here's the deal. Sea Beast is not perfect in the sense that, oh, listen, it's intersectional. There's like every, again, it's a fantasy show, so I don't care. But it's got, it's got a girl general and girl second mates on this, this pirate ship and blah 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 blah. Okay, the
Yeah, it's
main
still
girl's a little
got
black
some of
girl.
the narrative. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them with a
There's
strong
nothing wrong with
female protagonist. There's nothing wrong with that.
nothing.
It's just that it's the only thing we're allowed to get.
Yes,
That's when it's a
yes.
problem.
Now,
But
to
yeah,
be fair, you know what the number one premise of the story is of that show?
no.
Don't trust the history books.
Huh.
They use this to fight their wars.
Ooh.
I literally wanted to pick up a mic and drop it, and I looked at my daughters and said, exactly. Keep in mind, these elites, which is the king and queen in this show, literally used fake history to make people do unspeakable things.
Awesome.
I almost stood up and standing ovationed a Netflix show that's in my home, and not a single person who made it was a part of it. The main character is voiced by the guy from The Boys, which I hate to say that I love The Boys, but I do love The Boys. Yeah, I think that's his name. He's been everything, man. He's been Scotty. He's been King
Judge Dredd.
in The Rings. You know what I mean? He's been everything. But dude, the final punchline of this show, I wanted my girls to watch that over and over and over again. Be like, listen, be wary of what they try to tell you, because it probably isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what message? You've never heard that in most of your shows. And I was like, this is kind of on the nose. It's really thumbing the nose at globalists, like every part of the show. And I'm like,
yeah, Netflix is
awesome.
an interesting beast. They've done some, like Cuties. It's still there, and it's gross.
Cutie. Yep.
But then you get stuff like Sea Beast and Dave Chappelle, and more recently they've said, we're not we're if you're gonna make a big social justice stink, you're out. You're gone. Right. That's not our culture. We're here to make great entertainment. And I respect that. It must have been some cleaning house or something like that, which is good.
Well, it's when your stock prices drop out of control and you see, oh, wait, everybody wants to watch Top Gun and Terminal List. Probably
well, I mean, that's at least some wisdom, So, like, there's companies that are bought and sold, and they don't care what the stock price is because they're about the narrative. And then there's companies that are like, okay, this seems to be the narrative of the times, so we're going to put our money there. Oh, wait, that didn't work out. So we're going to abandon that because it's not what people want. It's what we were told that people want.
Yep. True that.
And I can respect that. I mean, you can't expect the world to have discernment.
No.
That's the ultimate mistake, is to expect the world to have godly discernment. They're not going to.
No.
But hey, you can reward them for making right choices.
All right.
And
let's wrap that bad boy up.
Well, wait. I want to plug. You've plugged two things now. I want to plug a thing. My wife and I are watching. My wife and I are watching Cobra Kai, and it's excellent. It's really good. We're only 2 seasons in, so I don't know if it goes off the off the edge in season 3 and 4, but first 2 seasons are excellent. And they bring up all the same old stupid crap, and it gets immediately tossed out for not being badass by the main character. It's like, what? No, that's not badass. You know, but it's still not like it's not going too far there either. So like in the first season, a girl wants to join Cobra Kai, and he's like, "There's no girls in Cobra Kai," and that's his thinking from the '80s with John Kreese, you know, from the first Karate Kid and all that, you know.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Why can't you know?" I mean, that's ridiculous. And then they step into woke speech patterns, and he shuts that down immediately. But then he thinks about it, and he's like, "Okay, well, if you're in Cobra Kai, you got to be tough. So prove it. Prove to me that you're tough." And she does. And so, yeah, okay, girls can be in Cobra Kai. I've learned a thing, you know? But it wasn't done in this like preachy, you know, you're outdated, Johnny Lawrence. To that he'd say, "Go F yourself. I don't care. I'm me and I'm proud of me." But yeah, it's a really good story. Every time that you think things are getting better, something happens and it gets worse. And it's all centered around warring karate dojos that warring karate dojo. It's like an old, you know, Japanese epic of warring karate dojos, but set in modern times with, you know, teenage kids. And it's fun and funny and real at the same time without buying into this nonsense of the day.
True that.
So far. Worth watching.
Cobra Kai, Top Gun, Terminal List, and Sea Beasts. Like, out on the sea, beasts. Watch those movies. Let's enjoy the burnination that's happening with the NWO. And Matty Matt, send us home, baby. Send us home.
On that note, you've been watching Plausible Foolishness, the home of the Rube Empire, where the people are free, the taxes are voluntary, and we serve freshly roasted liberal logic every Thursday at some time between 7:30 and 9:30 p.m. right here on twitch.tv/Plausible Foolishness, YouTube, Facebook Live, but most importantly, anywhere you can get a podcast. We recommend an app called Fountain, where you can actually earn Bitcoin while you're listening. And then if you feel so inclined, you can send some of that Bitcoin to us in a value for value. We've been giving you value. You extend some value back to us if you want to support what we're doing. We appreciate all of your support. Thank you for watching. God bless. See you next Thursday. Peace out.
Send it.